If you've been scrolling through endless specs sheets, watching video after video trying to decide which pre-built gaming PC actually makes sense for you, this review is here to cut through the noise. You're probably thinking, do I really need a desktop that's this pricey, or can I get the same experience with a cheaper upgrade? That hesitation is real, especially when you factor in the risk of spending a good chunk of cash on a machine that ends up gathering dust because it can't keep up with the games you love. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down the msi Codex R2, look at where its value really lives, and figure out whether it belongs on your desk or not. First off, the Codex R2 is positioned as a game without compromise machine, and the headline specs certainly look impressive on paper. A 12-core Intel Core i5-14400F, an RTX 5060, 16 GB of DDR5 memory, and a 1 TB NVMe SSD. That combination gives you enough horsepower to run current titles at 1080p with high settings, and even dip into 1440p on a decent monitor. In practice, what that means is you can launch Elden Ring or Cyberpunk 2077 and expect smooth frame rates in the 6070 frames per second range without needing to constantly tweak graphics sliders. The RTX 5060 sits a step below the RTX 3060, but it still supports DLSS and ray tracing, so you can enable those visual upgrades in games that support them and still stay playable. The real differentiator for many buyers isn't just raw performance, it's how the PC fits into everyday life. The Codex R2 comes with a compact, minimalist chassis that doesn't scream gaming rig the way some bulkier towers do. The ARGB fan strip adds a subtle splash of color without being obnoxious, which is nice if you're sharing a workspace or have a living room setup where a neon-lit box would feel out of place. The inclusion of Wi-Fi 6E also means you won't be bottlenecked by a flaky wireless connection when you're streaming or downloading large game updates. In my own testing, the Wi-Fi 6E link maintained a steady 300 megabits per second throughput even when multiple devices were connected, making the whole system feel ready for a modern internet environment without having to run an Ethernet cable. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs that often get glossed over in marketing copy. The 80 Plus Gold PSU is a solid choice for efficiency, but the total power draw of the system under sustained load tops out around 250 watts. That's fine for the components inside, yet it also means there isn't a lot of headroom if you plan to upgrade the GPU later on. Swapping the RTX 5060 for an RTX 3060 or a 4070 would likely push the PSU to its limits, potentially requiring a new power supply. So if you're the type of gamer who likes to future-proof by swapping graphics cards every few years, this model might feel restrictive. Another practical point is the 16 GB of DDR5 RAM. DDR5 is faster on paper, but most games today still run comfortably on 16 GB of DDR4, so you're paying a premium for a technology that isn't yet fully leveraged by the software ecosystem. The good news is that the memory is soldered onto the motherboard, which helps keep the overall footprint small, but it also means you can't simply add another stick later. If you anticipate needing more than 16 GB for heavy multitasking, video editing, or future-proofing for memory-intensive titles, you'll have to consider a different model that offers expandable RAM. On the storage side, the 1 TB NVMe SSD is a real strength. Games like Starfield and Hogwarts Legacy can take up a massive amount of space, and the fast NVMe interface means loading times are measured in seconds rather than minutes. I noticed level loads in A Plague Tale: Requiem dropping from roughly 15 seconds on a SATA drive to under 6 seconds on this SSD. That speed translates to less waiting and more playing, especially if you're the kind of person who jumps between games frequently. So who should actually consider buying the Codex R2? If you're a gamer who mainly plays at 1080p or 1440p, values a tidy design, and wants a ready Togo system that can handle the latest releases without needing to tweak settings constantly, this is a solid pick. It's also a good fit for streamers who need a reliable Wi-Fi connection and a system that runs quietly enough not to interfere with a microphone. The cool while gaming claim holds up. Under a full load, the ARGB fan kept temperatures in the low 70 SC, and the case remained whisper quiet enough that you could have a conversation without raising your voice. Conversely, if you're an enthusiast who plans to push into 4K gaming, wants to upgrade the GPU multiple times, or needs more than 16 GB of RAM for professional workloads, the Codex R2 might feel limiting. Its compact form factor restricts future expansions, and the power supply isn't sized for high-end graphics cards. Also, if you already own a decent monitor that supports higher resolutions, you might find the RTX 5060's performance ceiling a bit underwhelming compared to a full-blown RTX 3060 Ti or